Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for this evening for our Bible study. We thank you all for joining us. We're going to go ahead and jump into it. Before we do, let's go ahead and open up with the word of prayer, and I'll go ahead and get things set up. Most gracious and eternal God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to be in this place, Father. Lord, I pray right now, whatever we encountered on today, the challenges that we may endured, Father, I pray that you would just begin to remove them from our minds. Allow us to be focused on you, oh God, so that we can focus on the word, what you need to say to us on today. Father, I pray that you will forgive us for anything that we've said or done that wasn't pleasing to your sight. I thank you for giving us grace. I thank you for giving us mercy. And so, God, open our hearts, our minds, and our souls so that we may receive a word from you. In your blessed name we do pray. Amen. All right, let me go ahead and get ready and get my screen together. And let's see here if it'll work with me today. Just bear with me one moment. Okay. All right, we should be good to go. My screen should be sharing. This week we are working with stewards only, stewards only. And last week we discussed, just as a recap, we did discuss talking about being rooted in God, being rooted in the Spirit, being rooted in everything that is attached to the Father. And so we discovered that we need to extend our roots a little bit deeper, make sure that we are in a place where we can accept God for where He is, and God accepts us for where we are, in that we are continuously moving in a frame in which our relationship is growing deeper with Him. And so, to piggyback on that this week, we're going to be talking about only stewards. Our key focal point is going to be coming from Psalm 24, chapter 1. And that verse just states simply, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. And that's it. We'll definitely continue. I promise you, we'll get a little bit deeper into the text as we navigate through this thing. But I do have a question. Um, and the question is, if my things will act correctly for me, the question is, what do you own? What do you own? So I want you all that are either, if you're joining us via Facebook Live, if you're on Zoom, go ahead and drop in the chat or come off of mute for me and tell me, what do you own? What do you own?
I'll say I own my thoughts.
You own your thoughts. Okay. Is there anything else that you own?
Yeah, I'm sure I own a whole bunch of stuff. My will.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of abstract things, but
Okay. I want everybody to think of everything. Like, what do you in your mind believe that you own? What do you own?
I would say I don't own anything because it all belongs to God and basically he's loaning it. That's how I see it.
Okay. Okay. We can work with that. We can work with that. Anyone else? Anything in the on Facebook? Do we have any one chiming on Facebook or YouTube? What do you own?
not yet. We do have
Okay.
some viewers, but no responses.
Okay. That's that and that's fine. So, of course, the question is, what do you own? Most times, and we're gonna, of course, the title is only stewardship, right? And so, stewardship and ownership are two different things, and we're gonna jump into that too. But when we often think about what do we own, I'm always reminded of today's society. And in today's society, it tells us, or they tell us, or we hear a lot of times, it's good to own something. It's good to have your name on something, because that shows that you are meeting the American dream, or you're chasing out the American dream, and everything is going the way it needs to go. And one of the biggest things is home ownership, right? And so right now, as we all do know, that there's a cyclical issue that's going on with the interest rates with homes and home ownership. And but the what the world has put out to us is that the pinnacle of your life is to ensure and make sure that you obtain a home, and you make sure that when you obtain that home, that is because that is the pinnacle, because you're achieving something that is appreciating life rather than depreciating. When we purchase vehicles, whether we lease them or whether we actually finance them, or if you come out of your pocket and actually pay cash for them, the truth of the matter is they're depreciated items. And so it's not going to give you any value or add any value in your life other than the fact that you may be driving a newer vehicle, or you just have a vehicle that's going to get you from A to B, and still, um, it only gets you to a certain point in your life, right? Um, but it doesn't appreciate any. It doesn't give you any benefit. You don't get any tax write off on the vehicle, unless it's probably maybe an electric vehicle. But other than that, you're not getting a tax write off. You're not getting any benefits that stem from a depreciated item. And so when we're looking at that, and we're looking at this, and then we reflect it back to our relationship and our walk and talk with Christ, we need to look at it from a lens that, listen, when I own something, it takes it takes a lot of effort to maintain that, right? And so we also, when we're looking at things in terms of, when I was talking about appreciation and depreciation, we want to make sure we're investing what the time and the effort and the money that we're investing in, it goes into something that's going to be fruitful in the end. And so we like to we like to claim a lot of things as our own, because it gives us a sense of belonging. It allows us to have a sense of stature or status within society. um it and even the world has put us in that place that, uh even with rewards points, right? So if you go to Chick-fil-A, you go to these fast food restaurants, you go to these department stores, they'll give you, if you own a credit card, you can get rewards from that. If you go to them so often, you can build up additional reward dollars that you can put on an additional purchase later. And those things capture us because, it's enticing for us to have a reward in the end. But what we need to realize here of being only stewards is that when we become stewards, it allows us to get in a place where we are allowing God to manage what he's given us. Okay. And so, which sets us up for our next slide here. And that is stewardship versus ownership. Stewardship versus ownership. So I want to start with the stewardship side of things. Actually, no, let's make it a little different. Let's go into the ownership side and on the right side here. So on the ownership side of things, we're heavy on the possessive pronouns. Taking us back to grammar school, possessive pronouns means you're putting something before something, right? So my house, my car, my money, my finances, my bed, my desk, my computer, my stove, my pots and my pans, my everything, my TV, my cable. And when we put ownership is, again, possessive, we're heavy on the possessive pronouns. This is one way that we can start understanding what we're actually doing in our lives in terms of, are we allowing God to take control? Or are we sitting in a place where we're just wanting to take control and God's just sitting in the background because you know what? We know it's best. Because I want to have ownership of something, God. I want to be able to say that I'm making it in life. I want to make sure that people understand that I did everything for this. It was nobody's doing but mine. And so when we start putting on things that this is my house, and believe it or not, we do this all the time, right? We do this all the time, not knowing. Subliminally, we do this. We can say, "Hey, meet me at my house," or we could tell our kids, "This is my house, and you're gonna follow my rules." And rightfully so, right? But we automatically apply the possessive pronouns to everything that we attach to what we believe we own. So my question is on this first point, why do we do that? Why do we do that?
I don't know why we do it, other than habit, because I think all of us understand that it can be taken away.
Mm.
So it's just like a thing you're familiar with doing. It's not like you really think it's absolutely yours.
Yeah. Okay. It's just, and we do get in those habits. We really do, unfortunately. And and this is the purpose of this lesson is so that we can get in a place where we're changing our vocabulary, we're changing our thoughts, we're changing how we move, how we interact in our relationship with God. And again, this builds on the aspect of getting our roots a little bit deeper, right? And so this stewardship aspect, it's going to hit home. Hit home for me when I was studying this particular lesson. I was like, man, God, you really convicting me because there are a lot of things I put ownership to that I really should not put ownership to, but I'm just a steward over it. And so, point number two, we tend to become discouraged, upset, and develop a lack of faith in God when things are removed from us. So, Christy, to your point, um, we may think it's ours, but when God removes it, we get upset. We totally get upset. We get in our feelings. We're bent out of shape, and we're trying to ask God, what in the world is going on? So if something happens in our finances, oh, we're out the room. We're ready to shake things down, and we're ready to make things. We're trying to figure out what's happening, especially when it comes to money, because money. Oh, don't mess with money in a lot of people's lives. And so we when those things happen, if we lose our job, if things aren't happening, if we lose our house, we lose our car for some reason, we lose something in our we may lost a loved one. When we begin to put a possessiveness over what we consider to be what we have ownership over, that's when we start getting discouraged, upset, and our faith begins to dwindle with God, because it tells us in his word, God tells us, says he says, I won't ever leave you nor forsake you. And so we hold God to the T to that, as we should, right? And we hold him to the T to that. But when it comes to the things that we should not even take ownership of, God is just simply just telling us, hey, I never told you to take this on in the first place. So I don't know why you're upset with me. So when it comes to taking ownership of things, that's not our forte. That is not our forte. Because the reason God said, I won't leave you nor forsake you, is because he wants ownership of all of that in which we want to try to take ownership of. And so we have to remember that in the process of us trying to take ownership, us trying to um, move things in a direction and saying, hey, I got status quo because I got this brand new BMW, or I have this brand new 2027, whatever you want it to be, right? It doesn't give you a status. It just, what you have to understand is God's blessed you with it. And I'm not going to hate on anybody that what God has blessed you with. But what I will say is this, that you have to be a good steward of what he allows you to have. Keyword, what he allows you to have. Chrissy made a good, she said first, when I asked, what do you own? And she said her free will, but at the same context, God allows us to have free will, right? But we have to be a good steward of our free will. How many times in our life can we say that we have not been a good steward of our free will that God has given us? Have there been times where you have not been a good steward of your free will that God has given you? I'm gonna raise my hand and say yes, because I have not. There's been times in my life where I have not been a good steward over the free will that God has given me. And free will is a good thing, and it also can be a detriment to us in the fact that we believe we know what's best for us. But truth and reality is God knows better. Point number 3, ownership demands performance. Wow. Ownership demands performance. Meaning, if you're going to own something, you got to make sure you see that thing to the end. And it's not something that you could just do just for one time. It's not something that you can just show up for every other week. It's something that it's going to take every part of you every single day of the week, Sunday to Sunday, month to month, year to year. It demands performance because something that you have ownership of needs to be properly maintained to the point that it's not depreciating. I'll use that word, depreciating in its value of the ownership in which it was taken. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. That's all right. I appreciate the chime in, and I need y'all to talk to me tonight if you can. If you can put it in chat, that'd be great too. So ownership demands performance. So if God owns it all, then every dollar, hour, and talent you've been given carries kingdom potential. So understand that you're put here for a reason. Um, and if you're saying, God, you own everything, I own nothing. I own nothing at all. All that you have given me is yours. And so therefore, I know that you're going to bless my talents. People may try to figure out, man, how is this individual hitting every single time, every single point, and never missing on their talents, on their gifts. Why? Is because we understand that God has given us those gifts. He's given us those talents, and we're allowing Him to be the ownership of it, and we're being the steward of it. It's when we try to take we try to take ownership of the gifts that He has given us. We didn't make the gifts up. God gave us those gifts. He instilled it inside of us, and we try to take ownership of those gifts to say, I did this. I got myself that degree. I got myself this job. I got myself this high paying salary. I got myself this nice house. I got myself this nice car. And at the end of the day, this is where I got myself. My gifts and my talents. See the possessive pronouns that go back into place? My gifts and my talents got me where I need to be. And when we start thinking that way, we're no longer in a place of stewardship, but we're in a place of ownership, and we're taking away from God. And when we start taking away from God the ownership that he deserves, that means we start taking away, we want to start taking away the power and the gifts that he's given us. We start taking away the glory that it should be given to him, because we start getting remiss to the point that we're like, God, you know what? I got this now that now that you've given it to me. I got this. It's all me now. You got me this far. I appreciate it. But you know what? I'm going to take this thing on from here. There's been plenty of times that if we look back in our lives, we may not have done it intentionally, but unintentionally, I could say that I've done it a couple of times in my life. And that's why it's so important for us to understand and realize that we can't take for granted what God has given us, because as easily as he gave it to us, he can take it away. Have we, or have you all at any point taken advantage or taken ownership of something that God has given you, whether it be your talents, your money, your time, whatever? Have we taken advantage of that?
So I say, I hope I'm taking advantage of it, as in leveraging anything that I've been given, but have I used it irresponsibly? Probably. I just can't think of any specific time.
Okay. So when I say taking advantage of it, I mean taking advantage of it in a bad way, not in a good way, like taking advantage of the gifts that he's given us, but in a bad way of taking ownership of it.
I guess like if I use my mouth to lie, right, and the gift of of speaking and having the ability to, articulate things,
Uh-huh.
and I'm using it for bad, that would be an example, right, of
Yeah.
misusing the gift.
Yeah. And so we have to be cognizant of those things that we're doing, so that when we, again, when we're giving ownership over to God, um, we allow our kingdom potential to expand more. And we allow those blessings and those gifts that we talked about last week, those blessings, I'll open up a window, pour you out a blessing, you won't have room to receive. When we are not taking ownership, and God, you're allowing God to do that, believe me, that's when those come. Stewardship. Now let's talk about stewardship. I only got 3 points for the stewardship over here. Pronoun possessive do not exist in stewardship. So we've talked about the pronoun possessive: my house, my car, my money, my time, my gifts, my talents, my church. Those do not exist in in stewardship. It's not yours. Period. Like, it's it's simple. The concept is simple as I'm saying it out of my mouth, but the application is difficult for some of us. It can be difficult if we are possessive of the things that we have. What's crazy is this. I was having a discussion with my wife the other day, and I know individuals that if they lost something, somebody stole something, they will be bent out of shape. I've heard the stories. Like, I'm not going to tell who those individuals are, but I've heard the stories. And I'm just like, when I heard it, I'm like, it is what it is, right? You can't get it back. You can get it back. You can replace those things. But we get bent out of shape when they're stolen, when they're taken away. And so what we had, and I've gotten to a point in my life that I understand that I own nothing. I'm a steward in which God has given me these things and blessed me with. And if somebody is going to take it, I know that God is going to replace it with something better. And I'm going to tell you all, I get really troubled when and please don't crucify me by saying this, but I get troubled when people say that I'm going to take back what the devil stole from me. Have we heard that from time to time? Have we heard I'm going to take back what the devil stole from me?
Yeah, it's in a song.
In a song, right?
A
We've
recent
heard, I'm
harvest
going
got
to take
some
back what the devil stole from me.
Mhm.
Listen, I don't want anything back that the devil took from me at all. I want nothing back that the devil took from me. You know why? Because one, just as I saw in Job, he allowed the enemy to take everything from Job. But what we did see in the latter part of Job was that God replaced it and gave him more on top of that for what he lost. So I don't want what the devil took from me. I want what God's going to replace and give me plus that more. Give me even more of a blessing from what I lost because I understand that my ownership is not connected. I'm not connected to ownership. I'm connected to the stewardship. So if God, you place me over being a good steward and wanting me to steward whatever you've given me, I understand that if you take it at any point in time in my life, then I know because your word tells me you won't leave me nor forsake me. Your word tells me that you're going to open up the windows of heaven and bless me. Because I know that whatever it is needed to be out of my life for one. Number two, I know that you're about to replace it with something that's going to be better than what it was before. So we have to get to a point where we stop saying, God, I want you to, I'm gonna go and take back what the devil stole from me. No, God, what the devil took, allow him to take because you allowed that to happen. Because clearly that was your ownership. And clearly at some point in time, I became an unqualified steward over what you did give me. It could have been that. It could have been, it may not have been, but it could have been. We are called, point number two, we are called to manage and maintain what God has allowed us to have. We are called to manage and maintain what God has allowed us to have. Again, we did not get this by ourselves. The money that we have in the bank account or lack thereof, it could be a lack thereof, the cars that we drive, the food that's in our pantries, in our refrigerators, the clothes that we have on our back. If you have kids, the clothes that are on your kids' backs, the lights that are on, the cable, the internet, all of that belongs to God. And what God is calling you to do is be a good steward over it. I'm going to really hit something on this third point. Those of us that have kids, because it's going to be huge. It is huge. The third point, you see it up on the screen. Stewardship invites surrender. Stewardship invites surrender. Listen, we want to hold on to our kids. And this is one of the examples that I'm going to give with stewardship invites surrender. We want to hold on to our kids because it could be our only kid. It could be we got 3 kids, 4 kids. We should all equally love them the same. But we consider them as our legacy. They're going to lead it on. They're going to continue the family name on, whatever it may be. We get so tied up in those things, it's not even funny. But what we want to do, we want to claim ownership over our kids. And we don't want to give our kids over to God. I'm going to give you a news alert. Your kids are already God's kids. They're already his. He just wants it to come out of your mouth to say, God, I relinquish my kids over to you. If you don't have kids, God, I relinquish all my possessions and everything that you have your hand in. I want it to be yours. Why is it so difficult? So, this is a question. Why is it so difficult for us to surrender?
It's a control thing. We feel like we know what's best for ourselves, and at the end of the day, like we feel like we'll execute it better than anybody else can.
Okay. That's fair. Anyone else? Why is it so difficult for us to surrender? Come on, y'all. You got to talk to me tonight. Why is it difficult for us to surrender to God?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do not know.
Okay. That's fair. And that's fair. Can I suggest this? The reason why we do not surrender to God is because of what Amelia said as well, is that we don't want to give up our control. And surrendering in a sense from what we've seen like in society and today, it shows a point of weakness. It shows that we're weak. We're not able to maintain and handle our business, take care of our kids, provide for our family, be successful in our job, be successful in our career, be successful in my education. We're not able to do that when we surrender to God because we don't think God knows best at times. He knows best in certain times. We don't think God knows best. I'm kind of having deja vu because I think we talked about that last week as well. That we feel like God doesn't know best for us. But please understand that stewardship invites surrender. It allows you to really step back and reflect. Now, I've given all my kids over to God. And one of the hardest prayers that I pray, and I continue to pray to this day, is that God, whatever you need to do in my kids' lives to get them closer to you and a stronger relationship with you, do it. That's a really bold statement and prayer to make because it shows a form of stewardship and it invites and implements surrender. It tells God and shows God that you are putting your full trust in Him. And you're preparing yourself for whatever disappointments might come, whatever joys might come, and whatever indifferent moments might be there as well. Listen, I'm not asking you to say the same prayer, even over your career, your education, whatever it may be, your daily living. But I would ask you to consider it because again, all he wants you to do is surrender, so he can just take this thing on from you. He wants you just to steward and show that, man, you can maintain this thing just as he called you to do. Any questions, concerns, follow ups? All right, we're moving on. All right, keep it real. Psalms 24, 1 through 2. It says, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. For he has founded it, for he has founded upon the seas and established it upon the rivers. So my question is, if God owns everything, how should that shift the way you view your time, your finances, and your influence? If God owns everything, how should that shift the way you view your time, your finances, and your influence?
What came to mind is the song "My Life Is Not My Own, to
Hmm.
You I Belong."
Uh-huh.
Give myself away.
Okay. So you're gonna give yourself away. So um and that I actually was thinking about that song earlier when I was looking at this text in this study. Is that's what the first song that came to mind as well. I give myself away. And we sing that song, we sing it with passion, right? We sing it at the altar. And when the altar call is made and the benediction is made, and people crying left and right and starting to shout. And the question is, after you leave from that place, did you give yourself away? Because it's easy to sing the song, but are you living it?
Right. And what does it even really look like to give yourself away? Is always my like issue with how we approach religion is we'll say things like surrender all or leave it at the cross, but what does that even look like? We don't
Yeah.
really tell you how to do it.
Well, and that's the purpose of this study is like what that looks like is looking at your life, looking at everything that's in your life, all the way from family down to finances, X, Y, everything that you really see that impacts your life. And when we start looking at that and we start saying, God, I give myself away, remember, when you're saying myself, I give myself away. And when we talked about the possessive pronouns, everything you're attaching my to, we got to change our conversation. We got to change our verbiage. We got to change everything that we're saying is ours and make it his. So, one thing that I started doing, I learned early on, or I wouldn't say early on in ministry, I would say after I was about 10 years into ministry, um, I learned this. I was taught this. And that was when I got done preaching or doing a speaking engagement, everybody said, "You did an awesome job. You did an awesome job." I'd be like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." No, 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 no. That was a mistake because it should be to God be all the glory. To God be all the glory. Because at that moment, I was taking ownership over something that God had given me to speak to the people, to present, to do what I need to do. The ministry, and I never say, and I don't fault other preachers, pastors, ministers for saying this, but they say you'll hear them say my ministry. It is not my ministry. This is God's ministry. And he's just placed me in this ministry to be a steward over this ministry. And so when we start changing our vocabulary, that's when the song can start reflecting to our lives that I give myself away. That's what that looks like. It's relinquishing what we consider to be ours into God's hands. And again, we do it subliminally throughout the day. And we can sometimes catch ourselves. To this moment today, there are times I tell my kids, go ahead, this is my car. Don't be dirtying up my car. This is my house. Like, I still will catch myself, but understand my heart knows that this is God's house. This is God's car. This is God's money. And so, but when we have to make a mindset change to understand that it is all his. And when we make that mindset change to understand and we given him all the credit for what we have, our talents, our gifts, our money, our time, our influence on people, that belongs to God. And understand when we give him, again, when we go back to ownership, ownership demands performance. So when we give God ownership, he will begin to perform in our lives over that ownership we relinquish to him. Isn't that crazy? Remember, we said that ownership demands performance. So if we give it to God and he has ownership of it, and we said stewardship invites surrender. So if we surrender our ownership to God, he's going to allow and going to take that performance to another level. Y'all, a lot of people are trying to figure out, God, when can I get to another level? God said, give me ownership over it, and I can get you to that other level. Does that make sense? All right. We working, we working, we working. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 14. It says this, behold, to the Lord your God belong heaven and the heavens of heavens, the earth with all that is in it. My God, my God. Behold, to the Lord your God belong heaven and the heavens of heavens, the earth with all that is in it. Why is it easy to forget that everything belongs to God, including your gifts, opportunities, and possessions? Why is it easy to forget that everything belongs to God, including your gifts, opportunities, and possessions? Come on, y'all, talk to me.
I think that we forget that because we feel like we are always the ones who are we're like executing the things, or we're the ones who are managing it, right? In our everyday life, if we're talking about money, um, we feel like that belongs to us, and we're the ones who are responsible for making sure it gets to where it needs to be, or we're the ones who are responsible for making it so that it can get to where it needs to go.
Okay, that's fair. All right, see, Key in the chat said, I don't think it's easy. I think it's more of making of habit of remembering where it all comes from. My goodness, Kia. Don't you start that on this evening. Making it a habit to understand where it comes from. Mr. Miller.
Good evening. I think it's easy to forget that everything belongs to God. It's very easy to forget because we can't see God, right, in our physical. And so when we get something, it falls into our hands and we see it, but we don't see the natural human doesn't see God putting it in your hands. So it's easy to forget when we can't see what God is doing, but I understand now in my journey that I feel when God is moving, and God moves in every situation. So it's easy to forget because we can't see.
Hmm. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Huh. Okay. So let me ask you this question. It's a sub question to this. Would you say, and I've kind of said this already, can you agree that it's a mindset change more than anything?
It is, at least in my opinion. It's more of a mindset than anything.
Okay.
Yes, it's a mindset thing as well.
Okay. All right. So subconsciously we know because we hear the songs too. I told you I've been to church a little bit of time. I shall never forget what he's done for me. Those are the songs that we sing, right? And so if that's the case, if he's done it, Give him the ownership for it. I'm sure I know if we played music and we didn't put a copyright on it or infringement of something before we played music on any of these platforms, they would cancel us. They would turn our video off. They would throw our video to the side, our live stream. If we didn't make an announcement to say this video is not our this music is not our music, da 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 da. If we don't put anything in terms of copywriting to say that it's not ours, it gets canceled. But we like to put on it that it's ours. This is ours. But God's not canceling us. And he's still blessing in most cases. But can you understand and fathom when we give him full ownership, the extent of the blessings? Now, we really shouldn't do it because of the blessings that we know we're going to get from it. But can you imagine if we fully gave ownership over our finances and saying, God, you know what? I'm not going to be stingy on my giving. God, I'm going to give you my kids because I don't know what to do with them at this point. The world is changing and these kids are a different breed. God, I give you my kids. God, I give you the situation at my job. They missed me out on a couple of raises, promotions. I know my skills. I know my abilities. God, I'm giving this degree path over you right now because everything seems like it's going wrong. I can't get the papers right. The words that I'm reading in these books aren't making sense. God, I give this education over to you. God, even in my relationships, I give you ownership over my relationship right now. My marriage, I give you ownership of it because I'm doing too much bickering left and right with my relationships. God, I give you ownership of it because you are able to perform when I give you ownership. I just need to manage it. I need to surrender all of those things. I just need to be a good steward after you perform. I need to be a good steward after you perform and you continue to perform. I can't mess this up. Thoughts, questions, concerns. I know I told y'all at the beginning of this, it's going to hit home. It's hitting home for me. I promise y'all. I'm not going to give you something that is not convicting me either. This is a convicting study right now that I'm sure we can find something in our lives, in our relationship with Christ right now that needs God's ownership, that begs for his ownership. Because we can't perform on a daily basis and maintain that. We need God to perform it, and God needs us to just maintain and manage it. All right. Last question. I'm done with y'all today. What will you change this week to become more like a steward? What will you change this week to become more like a steward? Kia says my attitude. Amen.
My thought process.
Your thought process. Woo. Lord. What else? What else we got? What are you gonna change this week to become more like a steward?
I'm gonna be specific because that was very, very broad.
Okay.
I'm gonna change my attitude towards work because I'm absolutely grateful in this economy and I love what I do, but I don't always like leaving home.
Hmm.
So, but I'm grateful. So when I find myself being like, dang, I gotta go back, I'm gonna change it to having gratitude that I have somewhere to go and I have a place to come back to. That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay. And let me challenge you on this, Miss Kia. I'm gonna challenge you on this. So as and I know the transition that was made and you traveling more, right? Still with the same company, but God has put you in a different assignment. And so anybody that's out there right now that has changed jobs in the last 4 years, within the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years, if you've changed jobs in the last 3 to 4 years, whether it's your own doing or whatever else it may be, understand this new opportunity is because you've been moved to a new assignment. There's a new assignment. There's something there that God wants you to take care of. He's putting you in a place to where you can intervene, intercede, be a witness for somebody, something, or even a corporation in and of itself. Don't miss the assignment that God has assigned you to because of our feelings. God has assigned you to something. I promise you. We just got to wake up and see it. We got to wake up and see it. So I'm glad you brought that up, Kia, in terms of attitude. So the way our attitude needs to adjust to, and not even talking about a job now, anything in our lives, anything new that God brings us up to, any new challenges that come up in our lives. God is bringing you to a new assignment that He owns, that He wants you to be a steward over. And so if you're making a declaration of what you want to change this week, please change it. Don't just back out of it because of Bible study. I want you to truly, truly, truly change it. So that it can impact your life and you can make a positive change in your relationship with Christ. I told you I was done after that. This one was tough. I'll tell you that this one was tough. I'm gonna get on my EP for this one. This one was tough all around. I promise you. Because again, it brings in a certain level of conviction. Because when we start being and claiming things as our own, that's when we mess up. That's when we start saying, God, I got this. Thank you for bringing it to me. But and we do say, God, we thank you. I raise our hands, we shout, we thank you, Lord. But now I'm gonna take this thing on from here. I got it. God says, stop doing that. Stop doing it. Because it's not gonna, after a while, it's not gonna make sense to you. And when I say that, I mean this, that when it's not gonna make sense to you anymore, it's because things just ain't gonna line up anymore. They're not gonna go the way that you thought they should go. As smoothly as it should go. It is going to be, and that's when we start teeter-totting in the realms of ownership rather than stewardship. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. So on tonight, I appreciate you all for joining. As always, if you need prayer, if you need, if you just need for us to intercede, if you need some healing, if you need breakthrough strongholds to be broken, we're going to pray for that tonight. We're going to pray for that tonight. And being a part of a good steward, and it just falls into place, to be honest with you. Being a good steward is also giving and being a cheerful giver. We only thing we ask is that you give what God lays on your heart to give. Remember, stewardship, ownership. Uh, it was amazing. I was listening to this past weekend, this past Sunday, uh, Pastor John K. Jenkins for First Baptist Church of Glen Arden. He was in a series of doing his giving and how giving can bless you. And one thing he showed was the what God uh, asked of us, and he also showed what God continues to give us and what we keep. And so, in order for us to do what we do, um, we ask that you would just sow into us. You have on the screen Cash App, mail a check, Givelify, and Zelle. Whatever God allows, lays on your heart, we ask that you would give. And in that same breath and in that same moment, we thank you all for your giving that you do give because it does help the ministry. It helps us to be able to get out in the community and make an impact into a world that is hungering and thirsting for God. And so, in that hungering and thirsting, if you find yourself in that moment of hungering and thirsting for God, if this Bible study has reached you to a point where it's convicting you like it's convicted me, um, I would just request and ask that you just begin to surrender it all to God. Surrender your ownership over to God. Surrender your kids, surrender your job, surrender your education, surrender your relationships, surrender anything, any and everything, your cars, surrender it all. The house, surrender it all. And so on tonight, we're going to wrap up with prayer. If you seek additional prayer, send us an email at info at change ministries nc. I'm sorry, info at mail.changeministriesnc.org. And we can pray for you individually as well. But we're going to do a collective prayer and let you all out for the night. So, most gracious and eternal God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this message. We thank you for being God and God alone. And God, I pray right now if there's anything that we've said or done that was pleasing to you, God, please forgive us. Lord, I pray that this message that has been brought forth, I pray that it will have an impact on our lives, our relationship with you, Father. Lord, you know just when to provide the right words at the right moment, at the right time to meet us where we are. And so, Father, I pray that you would continue to convict us, allow us to change, surrender those things that are not ours, and they're all of yours. Lord, allow us and continue to work with us in terms of ownership and stewardship. Allow us to surrender our ownership over to you so that you can have the optimal performance and make things even greater than what they currently are. God, we're not going to be held to the possessions that we had because what that we have because you own it all. And those possessions that may come in the future, Father, let us be cognizant and aware of the fact that you hold ownership to everything. And so, God, we thank you for allowing us to be in this space. We thank you for the growth and the knowledge that you have given us on tonight. And so, Father, as we depart from this meeting, we pray that you would just be with each and every family. Lord, I pray that you would just allow us to move forward, being rooted in you, God, and being great stewards over what you've given us. Lord, we thank you, we praise you, we love you. In your blessed holy name, we do pray. Amen. You all have a blessed night, and we'll see you next week at 7.